Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about investor syndicates, how and why. What is an investor syndicate? How can you set one up? How will it benefit you in your business or property journey? And we're just going to kind of look at the structure and really all the pros of setting one up and how simple it can actually be. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So investor syndicate, what is it all about? Well, this is a question I've had so many times and I'm really excited to do this video because I really feel that I'm going to shed some light here and kind of offer some insights to how anyone can set this up. And I think there's this image of investor syndicate that you have to be a big time player within property business in order to set one up. And that when you think of investor syndicate, you think of these big investors with loads of money and that perhaps they would never, give you a chance or it's too complicated to set up. Well, it's not. And what I want to do is completely unscripted here. I just want to go into some detail. There's not going to be a lot of editing or anything fancy about this video. It's just going to be me giving you the information and hopefully opening up your eyes to how simple and how beneficial it can be and also mitigating risk for any projects that you have. So, as an overview, what is an investor syndicate? Well, an investor syndicate is typically like an SPV, like a company that is made for the sole purpose to lend against projects or business or someone who has an idea and there are investors on board. So you may have 1 to 2 or even 3 investors within this SPV with you, the director, or the owner of this business idea, whatever it might be, right? Let's talk property and a property development, or you want to buy property, whatever it might be. So what different options can you do in regards to buying land or a development? Well, you could go down the route of seeking out a private bank where they'll lend you the money. Okay, that can be quite hard. You have to jump certain hoops, so that might not be an option for you. The other option is that you borrow from a high net worth, but perhaps you can't find any high net worths, or the project just isn't right, or they don't want to lend you all the money, so you're still left with a shortfall. I think we've all been there, where you haven't worked with an investor before. They have some money, but perhaps they don't want to lend all of it. They just want to start small. Well, the issue there is if you're left with these small amounts, you don't really want to be borrowing from one person to another and you're taking 10,000, 5,000, 10,000 here, 15,000 there, and you're all having like these personal agreements with all of these investors. It's really complicated and it can be quite risky. That's the fact. So an investor syndicate is really handy in this situation because what you can do, let's say you are looking to buy land or you want to renovate and refurb property, whatever it might be, okay? It doesn't really make too much difference. Well, what you would do is let's say you've got 3 investors on your books, okay? And you need £150,000 to buy. You need £150,000 so you can be active in your journey and seeking property or land. Now, you could borrow from one and take the entire 150,000, okay? But then they've got this full risk, okay? Although they're going to take a first charge, there's still a bigger risk for one investor. So what you could do is you could have an investor's syndicate or an angel investor syndicate. You can call it either. Where essentially, if you know several investors, you can propose this. I'm looking for 150,000. I have 3 investors on my books, and I would like to propose the opportunity to come in at 50,000, where it will be held in an SPV, like an escrow account, separate account, and it gives you the buying power to go on and do your projects. So the agreement would be exactly the same for all 3 investors. Now what you've done, let's just say all 3 investors had 150,000 each, but they're mitigating their risk now because they're all dropping down to 50,000. You've still got your exact buying power of 150,000 in total, but they've now mitigated their risk. And the reason we don't really want to go more than 3 investors is because we still want to offer them a return that will beat the banks. So in this agreement, you would have all of your terms and conditions. So you can tailor the total agreement of this SPV can be totally tailored. They might have some points they want to put in there, but you could say something like, I'm seeking 150,000 within this investors syndicate, and I would like to have a 12-month clause period where the money is held within the account and it will allow me to either go and buy projects within this criteria, buy land within this criteria, or renovate property within this criteria. They would have all of this in a legal document, like a pack. And if they sign off to it and they agree to it, When you then find a project and you've got this £150,000 sitting in an SPV investors syndicate, this account that you now have, they've already agreed to all the projects that you wanted to go on and do. So you haven't got to worry about trying to please every individual investor who might have different needs, because they've already agreed to it up front. They've joined the SPV knowing full well your intentions. So that's one of the bonuses. The other bonuses is they're mitigating their risk, because they're not all investing their total amount of 150,000 each. They're only doing 50k each. Okay, and then you can offer a fixed return on that. What it allows you to do is it allows you to go around viewing property, viewing land, knowing that this money is sitting there. Now, the only thing you might have to do with an investor syndicate is when you do find a project is that you just propose it, you show it to the 3 investors who are directors, but they're almost like silent partners, and they just give you the nod. But they've already signed off on the agreement. Now, what you often will find, and it's a good option to put this in, is like a 12-month clause. So before any investor goes into your syndicate, you say after every 12 months, you might even do it after every 6 months, to be honest with you, to offer a bit more flexibility, is saying that after every 6 months, if the investment money hasn't been used, you have the right to withdraw your money back. Because at the end of the day, let's face it, an investor probably isn't bothered whether his £50,000 sits in a Santander account or it sits within like a joint business escrow account. There might be some tax implications depending on the investor and the way that you set it up, but across the board generally, there's no difference from it sitting in one account earning nothing to it's sitting in another account where you might go on to find a project which the money can be used to. The other bonus is where you all sign off, you can put in there, again, you can completely tailor your agreement. But one of the bonuses is you can say you are only after silent partners. So all 3 investors, they've already signed off, if they agree to sign off, that they're not going to be involved actively. So you're not going to have this situation where if you borrowed from 4 or 5 different people and you borrowed 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 here, you've all got them ringing up, nagging with their own problems, and someone rings up and says, oh, I need my 10,000 back, and I gave it to you thinking that you were going to find a project and you were going to give me my money back with some interest. You don't have that because that was mitigated at the very beginning within the syndicate, because you had clear T's and C's, legal paperwork stating what the money's for, length of term, what the return on investment would be if you found a project, whether that be 6, 7, 8% to each investor per annum once the money is being used. There is none of that kind of hassle that you will get from all different types of investors if you're borrowing from multiple. So it completely eliminates that. The other thing is you can really build up the pool. And you can keep quite an interest, because let's say a 6-month clause is put in and one investor, you don't find a project within 6 months and one investor pulls out. You've only got to find one other investor to come in. So you're not searching again for another 3 because the other 2 might remain in the SPV. So it just helps you to manage your investment money that you've got in that pool. If one leaves, it's very easier to find one than all 3 leaving. Then you might be in a bit of a pickle. So really, it's a really good way of keeping the cash in the bank. So if you do find opportunities, how many times have you gone to a viewing, for example, and an investor said to you, I'll lend you the money, go do the viewings, and when you find a project, let me know and I'll get back to you and then we can do a project. You go and view the property and then you come back and you say to the investor, right, great, I found the property, I know the one that I want to do, have you got the money? And they turn around and say, well, actually, things have come up or I can't actually lend it. With the syndicate, you don't have that, because what happens is everything is agreed before. So before you ever go spend out time and value and everything like that and your own energy, before you ever go viewing anything, the money is already sitting there waiting. So the SPV is set up with everyone knowing the purpose of why this money is in the syndicate, the investor syndicate. So you can then go with comfort, proof of funds, and go viewing, and you have this power, because as soon as you find something you like, you can put an offer in day one. You don't have that if you've just got a verbal investors agreement. So it completely mitigates that. So that is really the bonus of setting up an investor syndicate. Anyone can do it. If you want any more information, it was just a very quick video on this to say that how simple it can be. Typically an SPV is set up. You can do this in like personal agreements, where, you know, there is one agreement, they all sign to it, but you have to be very clear in your legal paperwork. Have a solicitor have done, choose a solicitor that has done something very similar in order to set this up. But I would say certainly the people that I know that use investor syndicates and the ones that I've been exposed to, they normally have it in a limited SPV. They open up the SPV, and then what they do is they close it down after a project is completed, or they keep it running and they go on to do multiple projects. It really depends on the amount of funds that are within that SPV. Finally, the real bonus, which I want you all to note down, is the growth in which the pot can grow. If you have 3 investors that did 50k each, and the first project goes really well, they might do 100 grand each. So then you've gone from having 150 grand in the pot to now you have 300,000, because all 3 investors trust you, and now you can really scale the pot, the investor syndicate. You could even look at bringing on a 4th investor. So you can kind of imagine how big your pot and buying power can go once you please all 3 investors. Just get the first project across the line. Like I say, reach out to me. It's quite complicated, this, if you haven't done it before. But this was really an overview to offer an insight on what an SPV really is with an investor syndicate. Reach out to me as always. Please hit the like and subscribe button if this offered value. And until the next video, I will speak to all of you very soon.